All right, this video I want to talk about the glow plugs in this car. The first thing I want to talk about is the type of glow plugs, and something I think any owner of these cars should know. Up until 1980, the Mercedes glow plugs on these cars were wired in series. Now if you look down here at close to this one, this is the one closest to the firewall. This one is. You'll see a wire that here goes up to the firewall. Okay, to that right there. And there's a fusible link in there that, by the way, if it should go, I've got one that's going to go with the car. It'll be in the glove compartment. They're only a few bucks, and you can buy these even at your local Mercedes-Benz dealer. I think you can even get one from Amazon, one of the links. But anyway, it's inside there. There's your wire coming down, goes to the first glow plug. Now, in these cars, 79 and prior, in Mercedes, these glow plugs were all wired in series. If you look at that closely, you can see the wire comes down into here. Then this metal wire here comes out of the glow plug, goes to the next glow plug, and then the next one, and the next one, and then at the end one, it actually goes down, and it goes to ground at that point. So it's a 12-volt system, of course, but these are wired in series. So what you end up with is about 3 volts at each glow plug. If you're anywhere near my age, you're familiar with the old Christmas lights that are wired in series. Now, the issue with that, of course, with these Christmas tree lights, as you recall, if one of them goes, they all go out. Same thing with these glow plugs. These series glow plugs, 1979 and older, Mercedes are in series. So if one of these glow plugs goes, then you've lost all your glow plugs. So that is something you need to be aware of. Now these glow plugs typically last at least 100,000 miles. And I just replaced ones with brand new ones. The original ones were still in the car, so that should never be an issue. But if it is, you need to be aware of that. Now, in 1980, Mercedes changed the system, and they put in new pencil type glow plugs that were wired in parallel, which gave you 12 volts at each plug instead of 3. And if you lost one, okay, well, you still had 3 left, so you could probably still get your engine going. And of course, on these diesels, once that engine's running, you don't need the glow plugs for anything. Now, something I want to point out here, there's 2 advantages of the parallel plugs over these older series plugs. The first one is each glow plug in the newer system has 12 volts, so they get hotter, and they get hotter quicker. So it doesn't take as long to get the engine warm enough so that glow plug light and the dash glows out and you can start the car. And these, it can take, especially in northern climates, quite a bit longer. I don't know, maybe even up to a minute. I don't know. Here in Dallas, I've never seen it last more than about 15 seconds before that light will go out and you can start the car. And in the summertime, it's almost immediate. But in northern climates, that may be a concern to you. The more important concern you might have is what I just mentioned. If you lose one of these plugs, then you have to, your car's not going to start until you replace the plug that's just failed. Now, I did replace these with parallel plugs on a 1976 240D I had. Bought the kit from Mercedes Source in Bellingham, Washington, who I highly recommend, by the way, as a source for you in these cars, both for parts and for service advice and instructions and so on. I bought the kit from them, bought new parallel plugs, pencil plugs, and changed them out on that 76. Took me, I don't know, a couple hours to do all that. Had to put a relay in the engine compartment, and had to also change the way that you actually start the car. But having said that, when I got all done, it fixed the problem. The car started up much quicker, and so on. So I was thinking about doing the same thing with this one. And last year I was on a Zoom call with Pierre Hideri. If you're not with the Mercedes Club, you probably don't know MBCA, Mercedes Club of America. You probably don't know anything about Pierre, but he's very popular in the club. featured often in the Star magazine that comes out bi-monthly. And he'd had a Zoom call, and I was on that call. And so when he was taking questions, I asked him if he thought it was smart for me to go ahead and change these series plugs in his car to the new ones that were used in 1980 and later. And he said, "No, sir, I wouldn't recommend it." He said, in the first place, he said it doesn't take that long to get these older series motors started, especially since you live in Dallas. It's probably not an issue at all. But even in northern climates, so if you have to wait 30, 45 seconds, sometimes, he said, that's not I don't think a really big deal. He said the more important thing is the loss of a plug. If you lose one of these and your series plug, your old car here, you'll be out of service. He said, but in my experience, most often the plug that fails is the one closest to the firewall, which is the one I'm pointing at here right now. And he said that's usually the closest one because it's closest to the battery. That's usually the one that goes. He says, what I would do, he says, I just throw get a glow plug, a good one, put it in the glove compartment, along with a wrench or two, so I can get in there and change it. And he said it takes about 15 minutes and you're on the road again. So he said it's just too easy to fix this. I wouldn't advise changing them. But having said that, if the new owner wants to try that, it's not that big of a deal. The instructions are very good, and I think the kit cost me a couple $100, $250 max. So it wasn't really a big deal. But I just made the decision to keep it a series system, so that's what I did. But I thought you ought to know know the difference between these. I don't see that mentioned often, so I'm not so sure how many people realize these older 79 and older cars do have series glow plugs. Thank you very much. Happy bidding.